Fuel becomes more expensive. Supplies become inconsistent. Not gone, just less accessible. And the scariest part? You don't notice the shift clearly, because it happens gradually. But the real problem starts when you need something urgently, and it's not there, or it's too expensive, or it's already gone. And that's when you realize the system didn't fail all at once. It moved without you and left you behind. The sixth sign is quiet prioritization. Resources don't disappear. They get redirected, but not toward you, toward what the system values most. Infrastructure, control points, strategic areas, and this creates a divide between those inside the priority and those outside it. And here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people are outside it, and when pressure increases, that gap grows. But here's where it gets worse. You won't be told where you stand. You'll just feel it in what you can't access, in what you're denied, in what you're no longer part of. The seventh sign is behavioral shift. People change, not slowly, fast. Stress does that. Fear does that. Scarcity does that. And suddenly, normal rules stop applying. People become less patient, less trusting, more reactive, and sometimes more dangerous. But this is what nobody tells you. The most dangerous people don't look dangerous. They look like everyone else, because they are. Just push a little further, a little faster, and that's enough. The eighth sign is fractured authority. Conflicting information, conflicting rules, conflicting responses, different groups saying different things, and you don't know who to trust or what to follow. And this creates paralysis, because now every decision feels risky. Every choice feels uncertain. And when people hesitate, they fall behind. And in collapse, falling behind is fatal. The ninth sign is restricted movement. At first, it's subtle. Small limitations, small rules, small controls. But the real problem starts when those limits expand, because control spreads faster than freedom. And once movement is restricted, options disappear. Escape becomes harder. Adaptation becomes limited. And survival becomes controlled. But here's where it gets worse. You might not even realize it's happening, because it's introduced slowly, reasonably, step by step, until one day you can't go where you need to go. And you don't remember when that changed. And then there's the 10th sign, the one that ties everything together, the one that changes everything you thought you understood. It's not the system failing. It's the system protecting itself. Because when pressure becomes too high, the goal changes. It's no longer about serving everyone. It's about maintaining control. And that means prioritizing stability over individuals. And this is the twist most people never see. You are not outside the system. You are part of it. And when it starts breaking, you don't just lose support. You become something it needs to manage, control, limit, contain. And that changes everything. Because now, you're not waiting for help. You're waiting inside a system that no longer sees you as a priority. And that's the moment most people never prepare for, because they're still thinking the same way, still trusting the same structures, still waiting for the same response. And by the time they realize the shift, it's already too late to adjust. So what do? That's the question everyone asks. But here's the truth. There's no single answer, because by the time you're asking it, you're already reacting. And survival belongs to those who act before they have to, before things become obvious, before systems fail completely, before everyone else realizes what's happening. Because once it becomes clear, it becomes crowded, chaotic, dangerous, and that's when options disappear, fast. So the real question isn't, has collapse started? It's this: how many of these signs have you already seen and ignored? Because once you start noticing them, you can't unsee them. And once you understand what they mean, you can't go back to feeling safe. Because safety was never what you thought it was. It was stability, predictability, control, and those things are already starting to slip. Quietly, slowly, but not invisibly. The signs are there. They've been there. And now, you see them. The only question left is, what are you going to do before everyone else sees them too? Because when they do, everything changes. And not in a way you can control, not in a way you can stop, only in a way you can survive. If you're ready in time, and if you're not, then you're not preparing for collapse. You're reacting to it, and by then, you're already behind. And in a world that's starting to break, being behind is the one place you cannot afford to be. You won't see it when it starts. That's the part nobody warns you about. There's no loud moment, no sirens, no clear line where normal life ends and something else begins. Instead, it slips in quietly, right under your routine, right inside your daily life. And by the time you realize something is wrong, it's already too late to react. Because the truth is, you're not waiting for collapse. You're already living in the early stages of it. You just haven't recognized the signs yet. And that's the real danger. Not the chaos, not the violence, but the delay, the time between when it begins and when you finally understand what's happening. Because that gap, that's where most people lose. Something feels off, doesn't it? Maybe you can't explain it. Maybe it's just a quiet tension in the background. Things still work, mostly, but they don't feel as stable as they used to. Like something is stretched too thin. Like one more push and it all gives way. And this is what nobody tells you. Collapse doesn't look like destruction at first. It looks like inconvenience. Small problems, delays, confusion, things that don't quite make sense, but aren't big enough to panic over. And that's why people ignore it. Because it's easy to dismiss something that still feels manageable. But the real problem starts when those small cracks begin to connect, when delays turn into patterns, when confusion turns into silence, when the system stops correcting itself. That's when you're no longer looking at problems. You're looking at the beginning of failure. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow. Everything seems normal. You check your phone, scroll through messages, news, updates. Nothing unusual. But then you notice something small. A delay. A service not working the way it should. You shrug it off. It happens. But later that day, something else feels off. A store shelf is emptier than usual. A delivery is late. A response you expected never comes. Still not enough to worry. Still explainable. But here's where it gets worse. You don't connect these things because they're happening in different places, at different times, to different people. So your brain keeps them separate, isolated, harmless. And that's exactly how collapse hides itself. It spreads quietly, piece by piece, until one day everything feels wrong at once. But by then, you're already inside it. And this is where the first sign begins. Not with chaos, but with silence. Systems start failing quietly. You don't hear about it right away. Because failure doesn't announce itself. It gets delayed, filtered, reworded. A power outage becomes temporary disruption. A shortage becomes supply adjustment. A delay becomes unexpected demand. And you believe it because you want to, because the alternative is worse. But most people miss this. Silence is not stability. Silence is pressure building. Because when real problems start, information slows down, not speeds up. And that's your first warning. Not what you hear, but what you don't. And this is where it gets worse. Because once information becomes unreliable, you lose your ability to judge reality. You start relying on guesses, assumptions, hope. And hope is not a survival strategy. The second sign is slower response. Not failure, not collapse, just slower. Emergency services take longer. Customer support doesn't answer. Systems lag. At first, it feels like overload. Too many people, not enough resources. Normal, right? But the real problem starts when it doesn't recover. Because healthy systems bounce back. They adjust. They correct. But failing systems stretch and stretch until they can't anymore. And when response times increase, so does risk. Because now time is working against you, not for you. And most people won't notice until they need help. And that's when they realize help isn't just late. It's overwhelmed. And here's where it gets worse. You won't be told that. You'll just feel it in delays, in silence, in unanswered calls. The third sign is inconsistency. Nothing fully breaks, but nothing works smoothly either. One day, something is fine. The next, it's not. Prices shift without warning. Services change without explanation. Rules feel different depending on where you are. And this creates something dangerous, uncertainty, because now you can't predict anything. And when you can't predict, you can't prepare. And this is what nobody tells you. Predictability is what keeps society stable. Not strength, not power. Predictability. Because when people know what to expect, they stay calm. But when that disappears, so does trust. And once trust starts fading, everything else follows. The fourth sign is the one most people miss, because it doesn't look like danger. It looks like normal life continuing, but slightly different. People stop reacting, not because things are okay, but because they're overwhelmed. They adapt to the wrong things. They accept delays, accept shortages, accept uncertainty, and slowly, their expectations drop. This is called normalization. But here's the part that should scare you. When people normalize decline, collapse accelerates, because now there's no resistance, no urgency, no push to fix anything. Problems become the new standard. And once that happens, recovery becomes almost impossible. But here's where it gets worse. You might already be doing this. Accepting things that would have felt unacceptable before. Ignoring changes you would have questioned. Adjusting instead of reacting. And that's how collapse hides in plain sight, inside your own behavior. The fifth sign is resource drift, not disappearance. Drift, things don't vanish overnight. They slowly move out of reach. Food becomes harder to find.